Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
So Tom Wysocki is arguably Nevada's gift to distance running. So Tom, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm really honored. You know, I've got because this is on marathoning, I've got like the worst marathoning credentials of any of the elites from back in the day.
Well, you did win a marathon, though.
Yeah, I did win the Las Vegas Marathon, and I never ran much faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you not ever? Because so many road racers. I don't know if you consider yourself a road racer or a trackster. Were you more of what do you consider yourself, a trackster or a road racer? Because you were successful at both levels.
Ooh. I like the track because it's just so definitive. I loved it, but there were times, I like going to Europe. I did, but I liked the road. I liked like the camaraderie on the road races. But I just, Benji, you were in Honolulu when I ran my first big one, and I blew up at 21 miles. And I just could never convert, and Nike kept saying, "Oh, we're going to turn you into a marathoner." It just never happened. So then, Ron, I considered myself more of a road racer. But then when Ruth, started having her success, we were able to travel a lot together, and I think the three of us on here had limited success when we were young in high school and even in college. And so then all of a sudden be able to travel the world and run in some of the biggest stadiums and in front of some of the most knowledgeable crowds was just like I was all in on that.
So you never looked at maybe. Because I know Benji and we talked about it. We enjoyed the track, but we were both making our bread and butter on the roads. And that was what I recognized when out of college. I said, road racing was coming into its own, and there was money that you could make in road racing, where I running low 28s for 10K was you get a attaboy, good job, a pat on the back, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And you could run a 28, or 29-minute 10K on the roads and pick up $500 or $600. So that was for me, that was the reason that I chose the roads.
Oh, I get that the allure of the money, especially in the marathon, it's not like it is today, but the allure of a big payday, and just the fact that I wanted to try to do my best in anything, and I just couldn't convert. And Benji would talk to me about how to change my training, and I just couldn't do it. And then at some point, when it just wasn't happening, then I'd try a marathon, but I was wondering when the bottom would drop out in the race. Instead of going into it like I'm going to be able to maintain it, I was wondering when it was going to happen, and I would just cash it in. And so I don't know if I didn't have the mindset. Definitely no confidence. Definitely.
Yeah. So you weren't a fat burner. You couldn't really.
No.
What do you think your best distance was?
Between 10,000 and half marathon.
15K.
10K, yeah. If I was having a
15K.
good day, but below that, I mean, like in Europe, I'd run 5,000, 3,000. I had decent credentials. I mean, 13:35 when that was fast, and 7:43 when that was fast in Oslo. So for a 4:03 for the mile. So to run 7:53 when I was only a 4:03 miler, and I think I got fourth in Bislett with that.
Those are really incredible times, especially I know your 2 mile in high school was what, 9:38?
34. Hey, don't
sorry,
slack there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, but I mean that's pretty amazing that you dropped your times the way you did. So were you in Las Vegas? Is that where you went to high school?
I went to high school in Vegas, then I went to college at Nevada, Reno. Had great mentoring there. I went in there thinking I was all that. I had no idea. I was so new to the running game. I'd only been running 2 years. I had no idea how good the program was up there with Domingo Tibaduisa.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of foreign influence, and Domingo took me under his wing. So he taught me just how to progress year after year after year. Um, and I owe him I tell him whenever I see him, I owe him a
Great
debt.
guy. Yeah.
He's a
Super.
great guy, great guy.
Yeah. What
Your
was your
turn.
favorite race?
Favorite individual race or favorite distance?
Race. What race out of all the races you've run, which race was your favorite race?
Ooh, boy. I would say probably Gasparilla when I ran 4306.
What year was
That
that?
was 85.
85. Okay.
I took the lead with 5K to go, and there's Mick McLeod who just got an Olympic medal and all that. And I opened up a gap, but as it gets a slight headwind, and I backed off, and I realized with 1,000 meters to go that damn it, I should have gone for it because I felt too good, but I didn't have that turnover that those guys did with 1,000 to go. I think it was about that. You go over that bridge, and I
Mhm.
realized I felt like I gave it away. And McLeod told me after, he said, "Hey, you should have gone for it. We thought you had it." Um, but yeah, I mean, I was in. Oh my God, and that's rarefied air with that field, and
Yeah.
I think I would have gone under 43 there.
Yeah.
I would have
But
thought
would
that
have
you.
been.
I would have thought that you'd have said running at Bislett. I mean, what the uh,
It's tough to choose that. I mean, Olympic trials in 80, give me six. I mean, 30-second PR, 25-second PR. There's so many. When I made the world cross country team, I mean, I came out of nowhere and all of a sudden I find myself on a plane to Europe for the Worlds. That was like a moment where all of a sudden I realized I could make the next jump.
who was on
Um,
that team? Were some
oh,
of the
let's
other
see,
guys?
Jeff Wells, Rojas, Tony
What year was that?
Sandoval. What's that?
What year was that?
77, 77
Let me
in
see.
Dusseldorf.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think let me see, where was that?
Was that Houston? Where
No,
they?
it was
Alameda. Yeah,
San,
yeah.
San Francisco. And I was an alternate. Then Terry Cotton decided not to go. He'd won the national cross country, and he begged off on the team. So I got moved up to. I think they took. I think they took eight, and I got moved up to eighth, and
Well,
off I
the
went. But
Alameda one, you were sixth.
yes, but they took two from the nationals. So
Oh, okay.
Cotton, I think Virgin. I'm not sure who the other one was. I know Terry Cotton had won the nationals that
Yeah,
year.
so the team was Michael Bordell, Gary Tuttle, Steve Flanagan, Tony Sandoval, Jeff Wells, you. No, this was at the trials. Chuck Smead, John Anderson, Kirk Pfeffer, and Dwayne Waltonmere. I don't know Dwayne.
I don't know either.
And it was just shy of 15K for the trial.
Yeah, over barriers, and
Yeah,
I'd never been on a barrier in my life.
it's
Um,
weird that we're now looking for courses that are pancake flat practically.
oh, that thing was flat. There is no doubt about it. It is like the flattest golf course in California, especially
But
in the
you
Bay
still
Area.
had barriers, and did you have hay bales or just barriers?
Just barriers, just people chase barriers. And like I said, I'd never been over one in my life. That was an eye opener. That was a real eye opener. Um, but yeah, so it's tough with the relatively long careers, especially you guys had, to choose one particular race. When I ran 62:58 in Vegas, the half marathon, late '79, Pfeffer won. They did keep the records, but we were told that no American had ever gone under 63. I think Tom Hunt was 63:08 was his PR, and I think that was considered the U.S. best, if not the world best. But now that half marathons are a big item, but they were pretty rare. And so Pfeffer and Billy, I think was third or fourth.
And,
But that was a big race.
Yeah, we tended to run 20Ks, not half marathons.
Right. And I personally, I'd say my favorite distance was a half marathon. That seemed to fit really well, with I just going beyond that, I just couldn't. Even 30K, I just couldn't hang.
What did your training look like when you were doing the road racing?
105 miles a week, 13 runs. Sunday was a longer run. At that time, actually, when I ran 43, my longest run was like a 12 miler. Now it was hilly,
Oh, yeah.
and I hammered it. Even though it was a recovery run, I'd end up, because I had my checkpoints on there. Those I did all on my own, and I would just start hammering it. And it was up around Lake Mission Viejo where they had the road race for the '84 games. So the cyclist thought it was too flat, but it's pretty. They had some long ass grinds on that, and I couldn't slow down. I didn't start doing consistent. Once I got out of college, I didn't start doing like 20 milers until 85, 86. Trying to convert, I just couldn't do it.
Well, it sounds,
So
just listening to you, it sounds like you didn't have the ability to run slow.
Well, you tell me that, and I think John Sinclair had the same issue on his
Yeah.
training runs.
Yeah.
We just automatically start picking it up, and you'd tell us to slow it down. And I tried, Benji. I tried to follow your advice. I just
Well,
couldn't
no,
do
I
it.
mean, some people it's just not reasonable in their minds to do it. And part of the discipline of being a marathoner is having that ability to enjoy a slow run. I mean, if everybody could do it, I probably wouldn't have been a known runner.
But that being said, though, Benji, I'm with you, Tom. I used to do most of my runs were short runs, but they were really hard. I did almost everything was sub 6 minute pace, and my longest before Boston '83, Benji, my longest run was 17 miles. But that 17 miles, there
No,
were
you'd had
six
several
or seven of the
marathons.
miles
You'd had
were
several
sub.
marathons, so that was a long run. Well, no,
Well, I'm
seriously.
saying
I mean, you
I'm
forget that, but marathons are part of the program. I mean, if you run a marathon, it doesn't go away.
No, well, what I'm saying though, training,
Well, I
a
agree,
lot
but
of
you still have to consider that every time you run a marathon, that's still part of the whole
you're
package.
gaining experience, absolutely, yeah. But
I just start figuring why go on a 20-mile run and be out there for 2 hours and 20 minutes when I could knock it out in an hour and 48, 49. Well, why spend extra time out there?
well, what I looked at, and this is I coached this with the people that because I'm still coaching. What I like to be able to have people do is on Tuesday be able to come back again after your 17-mile run that you do on Sunday, be able to come back on Tuesday again and have a good run. Doesn't have to be at sub 6 minute pace, but go out and be able to, so you recover. Anytime you're going over 17, 18, 19 miles, it takes a long time to recover, or it takes longer to recover anyway. So my philosophy is that, just do hard runs and do them more frequent as opposed to doing shorter runs and being able to do them all week. I think Benji, I think you could go out. Well, you're different than, because I was surprised to learn that you only did, 80, 90 miles a week training, where, a lot of guys were doing 140, 150 miles a week training.
Well, I did more like what you guys did early in my running, when I first started trying to be a marathoner. And I was not successful. I mean, I'd do 6 minute pace or better for 15 to 20 miles. And then back then we'd have races that were some indeterminate distance, somewhere between 15 miles and 22 miles. And it would all be all I could do to run 6 minute pace for one of those races. My first marathon was 6 minute pace. And, it was when I finally quit doing that and shifted to really seriously easy days and seriously hard days, it's when I finally started improving. Um, and there are different physiologies. If there weren't, we'd all have the same training program and we'd all have the same, performance. I'm more of the Kenny Moore, image. Kenny, he had to have 2 easy days between his hard runs. Um, one was enough for the most part for me. But if I didn't do that, I was flat all the time. Um, and I could run the same speed, but I couldn't change speed. I couldn't run 5-minute pace. I have to run like 6:40 pace for my easy days. If I didn't do that, I was going to be flat, and when race come along, it was going to be 6-minute pace. So yeah, I learned the hard way by running slowly in races when I could train that fast.
But did you guys have people to run with when you were on these long runs?
I had people that would run with me some of those long runs. Early on, my early runs, I was in grad school in Athens, Georgia, and there was nobody there. And what I did have, my calculus professor, my freshman year, was a distance runner. I didn't realize that until later, but he was a seriously anal person. He went out and he put mile marks throughout the entire county. And later on, I discovered these marks. I'd see them on runs. And I think, what does that number mean? And one day he came out to a track meet and was writing down all my splits. And we were talking after. And said, I see all these marks. I don't know. Oh, I did those. So, so early on, what I would time myself. This is back when we didn't have Garmin's, but I'd time myself on these courses where this splits were, and if I couldn't get under 6-minute pace, I was disappointed. But I was by myself. It's when I finally started running better in the late 70s. People come and run with me, but frequently they'd run too fast. People that would, let's say I'd have a 2:40 marathoner and he'd push me the entire run. It's sort of like, okay, well, whatever. And then, I got to the point eventually where I just do them by myself because it was more comfortable. And if I'm wearing, 3 sets of sweats and rain suits and running 6:40 pace, not many people want to be with me anyway. Though now, and I will say this, starting in late 79, Dick Berkeley and I started training together. And Dick would run with me for about 2 hours on our long days. And then I'd go do another 45 minutes on my own. I'd drop him off. And then I'd run his speed sessions. I'd punish him in the long runs and he'd punish me in the speed. Though it's funny, you could not run in front of Dick in a training run. The way to control the pace was to run about, I think it was off his left shoulder at about a meter back. And if you got any closer, he'd pick it up. If you got further back, he'd slow down. So you had to have that zone there, and that's how you could control the pace in a long run, not a speed session. Speed session, you just hang on for dear life.
Yeah, we're talking about the marking down on the on the cement, the different distances. We've all spent quite a bit of time racing and training in Hawaii, and that's to get out of the Vegas heat back then. I would go stay at my sister's in Hawaii in the summer. Started when I was a junior in college, and somebody from where she lived, every now and then I'd wanted, I had my regular runs, but then I'd go down the Alawai Canal, and it took you all the way to Kapiolani Park. Well, some sadistic, can I say bastard, on here went along and marked every 1/10 of a mile, and it's like 1.75 miles or something. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. It was mind numbing. So I liked the run, except for I just kept seeing those markers, and why you would need every 1/10 of a mile marked off. But
well, there are anal people in the world. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well, see, so my training partners, when Ruth and I moved out this way, then I was trying to go a little bit longer. Brooks gave me the latitude to to experiment, and Brooks at that time didn't understand track at all. So my contract was, and Ruth for sure, was all based on track, with some, the magazine covers and that kind of thing. But it was all track based. But they, Will Albers and them, they were a road race company exclusively. And so our bonuses and stuff, a lot were based on track rankings. So I was able to do that. But people here that I go on the long runs with, well, Steve Scott lived in Fallbrook. We were in Canyon Lake. We'd meet here in Temecula, and we'd go for a 20-mile run. A 20-mile run with a 3:47 miler is a whole different experience. We'd say, okay, we're going to go slow today. We're going to go 6 minutes a mile. We'd go out and back, and then coming back, all of a sudden,
Steve, it
was
was
unbelievable.
He amazed me because we did training runs together on occasion, and I was like, "Holy crap! I can't believe how hard he can do a 10-mile run." I mean, it was impressive. I mean, he did. We went. I'm trying to remember where we did a 10-mile run once. I think it might have been in Oslo, and we ran like 54, 55 minutes for 10 miles. And I'm going, "Holy crap!" I'm going. I had an entirely new respect for what he's capable of doing. So,
Well, he and I, one time we went on a run in, I think he was living in he was living in Tempe, then maybe Scottsdale, and we just went across the desert. But he knew where to go, and then he'd get to 10 miles and turn around, and come back. Well, I'd be knackered, but I didn't know exactly where I was going. It's just went across the raw desert. There were no paths or anything. And if he broke away and I went 1 degree off, I'll completely miss Phoenix. They'll find me in like Kingman, Arizona, or something like that.
Wysocki skeleton.
Oh my God. Yeah, with a new pair of shoes. So it was amazing, and he just dragged me to these things. Then one time he in '85 was my best overall year, I think. And there was a run across LA, started Century City and ended up in downtown LA at the Bonaventure Hotel, right down Wilshire Boulevard. And Steve and I were both going to run it. And it's the end of the year. So I went down to Fallbrook, and we were going to do these hill repeats that he liked. And I thought, okay, we're going to do like 10, 12. He said, oh, no, we're doing like 36. Well, and they're like 300 meters, 400 meters long. And after, I don't know, 15, I'm like, I'm done. And I know I've got to race him in 10 miles in a week. And he finished them. And then we get on the line, and Jim Hill was there, and all his he came up from Oregon, and then all the top LA runners. And we took off, and we dropped Steve at 10,000 meters. And I look over at 9 miles, and Steve's back. I thought, son of a, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't shake him. And fortunately, then he fell off. But and then I outkicked Jim Hill. But I thought, I can't run with this guy for a large number of hill repeats. He's just a beast, absolute beast.
Well, his lactate tolerance was part of it. I mean, I couldn't have done that many. I typically, if I did a hill session, a dozen was as most as I'd ever do. I mean, it was just
exactly.
How far was the hill?
300 meters, 400
300
meters.
Okay, so
and it's a pretty good grade. It was a pretty good grade.
I had a roughly 400-meter hill I did in Stone Mountain in the park. It'd take me on a really good day 73 seconds, but if I did a dozen of those 73 seconds, I was done with the workout. I could only get another hour or so of a warm down.
Well, growing up in Vegas, as most people know, is relatively flat. I mean, you could find hills around town, but and where Vegas is so built up now. But now the house I grew up in, it's considered the middle of town. Back then, is on the outskirts. But there's a lot just of dirt roads just going across the desert. Then I went to Reno, so I've got altitude. Well, altitude for Nevada, it's 4,400 feet, and then hilly. And I was horrible at hills, horrible. And Domingo said, just keep working on, and they became in cross country, they became one of my strongest assets.